What's up, YouTube, college football fans, and people looking to make a little bit of money? It is August the 8th, 2019, and we're a mere 16 days away from the official start of college football season, week 0. I got a few teams going to tee it up there on Saturday, August the 24th. You have the Arizona Wildcats traveling to Honolulu to take on the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, and you have Miami, the Hurricanes, and those Florida Gators. Dan Mullen going to hook it up in Orlando in a game that is much talked about and much anticipated. Glad to see college football coming. Glad to see it back. Every year it seems like the summer it's longer and longer. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the summer. I really do. But football can't get here fast enough, and I'm so glad to see it coming back. The games I want to focus on today, I just picked 5 random games off the VegasInsider.com board. And most of these lines are pretty much the same at any betting site you go to. But there are a few here that just stand out to me as maybe being off just a little bit, maybe being a place where you could make a little bit of money. So I'm going to offer you some of my sharp advice on some of these. And, feel free to leave your comments down in the comment section below if you see any lines down there coming across the board that don't exactly seem right. For the purposes of this video, of course, I am going to do the ones for the weekend of August the 31st. Now, I will do pick and prediction videos, just like I have done the past 2 years, for every game the week 0, and I'll do every week. This year I'm planning on trying to do every game on the board. Cross my fingers. I hope I can do that. Don't hold me to it, but I'm going to try to do every game on the board every week. I have to research them a little bit, and I can't just go here and say, hey, we're going to throw this number out. I have to give you a reason as to why I'm picking a game that way. Henceforth, last year I was about 60% on my picks, which is pretty decent. I'm not trying to brag or anything or toot my own horn, but toot. I'm just kidding. I'm not that great. I'm just a guy with a piece of paper and a computer and a cell phone and some football magazines. But I do what I can. But I will try my best to do every game on the board those weeks. Hopefully work won't interfere with that too much and I won't have to abbreviate it. Last year I think we were doing about 20 of them or so. But we're going to get into week 1 and 5 games here that I think have some tendencies to maybe sway one way or the other. Let's look at Rice at Army. This is a game to be 6 p.m. On the Friday, the 30th there. So Rice is traveling from Houston up to West Point to take on an Army team that had a really good season last year. Of course, everybody knows what they did when they played Oklahoma last year. That game ended up going to overtime, and the Black Knights fell to the Sooners 28-21. It was a very, very closely contested game and showed the world what Army could do. Like the bowl game last year, they absolutely decimated Houston, 70-14 in that game. We'll talk more about that one because we're going to talk a few things about Houston here as well. Rice is returning 7 starters from last year. Had 103rd ranked defense in the country. This is just a terrible team. Just a terrible team. They were 2-11 last year. They won their first game of the season, barely beat Prairie View A&M, an FCS school, and upset Old Dominion to win the last game of the season. Their pass defense was actually better than their run defense, which you would think that might benefit them a little bit against Army, but they really didn't play a lot of running teams last year. They were just bad all the way around. Army won their games last year by only an average of 14 to 17 points per game. But I think that they are going to look to make a statement in this game because you know who they play in week 2. They travel to the Big House to take on the Michigan Wolverines. And I think they want to send Michigan a little bit of a message. I don't think they want to send the college football world a little bit of a message here that Army is for real. Their quarterback is back. They kind of rotated running backs in and out last year, a couple of guys. They have a running back, 1,000-yard rusher back. I think that Army is going to cover this 23.5 point spread here against Rice. I just think Rice is just not a very good team. Their defense is not going to be able to hold up to the beating they're going to take from the Black Knights. Look for Army to cover the spread there. Wisconsin on the road against USF. That's not UCF, that's USF, South Florida. And Wisconsin is 10.5 point favorites on the highway against the Bulls. South Florida was 0-6 last year down the stretch. Did not play very well at all. They started off 7-0. They ended up 0-6. So, lost their bowl game to Marshall. And to me, looking at them, this is just a team that's just been on a steady decline since the end of the 2016 season when they lost their head coach, Willie Taggart. Say what you want to about him. A lot of Florida State fans are sick of this guy because they went 5-7 last year because of a mess he inherited from Jimbo Fisher. They're not giving him time. And Florida State, they're kind of an impatient fan base, and granted, they have a right to be because they're used to being at an elite level, and they're not there. They want to get back as quick as possible. I can understand that. They got to give this man a little bit of time. However, let's veer back from that. South Florida, to me, has just steadily gone downhill ever since Charlie Strong took over. And I do not think that they're going to be able to stop that Wisconsin running game. Last year, if you look at their game against Cincinnati, they gave up 4 touchdowns to that kid from Cincinnati. It was a 1,300-yard rusher. How they're going to deal with a 2,200-yard rusher in Jonathan Taylor. And yet, Wisconsin, they do have to do a little bit of retooling on their offensive line. But, I mean, this is offensive line U. They pump these guys out like it's just like it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal for Wisconsin to replace an offensive line because they're born to do that. Yes, they do replace their quarterback, Alex Corningbrook, but that quarterback is not that pivotal in that Wisconsin offense. They're going to go to Tampa in this game, and I think that Jonathan Taylor is going to run all over South Florida. Give me Wisconsin in that game. Tulsa at Michigan State. And once again, these are not maybe the most interesting games in the world, but they're ones that bear watching if you're wanting to try to find an angle to make a little bit of money. Michigan State, since the beginning of the 2015 season, is 3-11 against the spread against non-conference opponents. 3-11. They failed to cover the spread last year in all 3 of their non-conference games, which included their bowl game against the Oregon Ducks. They're a very disappointing team last year. They do bring back most of their starters on offense, so they do look to be better this year. And I don't think that Tulsa is going to beat Michigan State. I do not think they're going to beat them, but they returned 9 starters from last year's defense that it played better down the stretch. They played a lot better down the stretch than what they had at the beginning of the season. They got a kind of a 3-guy quarterback battle going on. There's a kid there from Baylor, Zach, and I don't have his last name written down, that looks to be the one to get the job. He's a transfer in from Baylor. Had to sit out last year, but he put some good numbers up when he was there. They look for him to get the starting job, and if so, I think that Tulsa's going to give Michigan State a game. You know, this team only dropped their game at Texas last year by 7 points, and there were some other close games in there that they lost, and this is a team that should be better than what they had last year. Michigan State, given the fact that they don't really play all that great against non-conference opponents, they just kind of play well enough to win and then go on about their business. I think Tulsa's going to cover the spread in this game. It may only be by half a point. They may lose, 42-21. But I'm still looking for Tulsa to cover the spread in that game. 35-14. Probably a little bit lower scoring. That would be more along the lines of what it would be. Michigan State not known for putting up a lot of points either. Houston and Oklahoma. Now, last year, I kind of got poo-pooed on a little bit by the Florida Atlantic Owls because I picked them to cover the spread on the road at Oklahoma in the opener, and Oklahoma actually blew this team out of the water. Of course, Florida Atlantic was not as good as a lot of people thought they were going to be last year, and Oklahoma, I just don't think that we knew what Kyler Murray was capable of doing. Obviously, he was capable of doing a lot. This year, I can tell you, Jalen Hurts is not the quarterback that Kyler Murray was or that Baker Mayfield was. Okay, they are replacing pretty much their entire offensive line there. And granted, they do return Trey Sermon at running back. They got CeeDee Lamb returning at wide receiver. But with Hurts taking over at quarterback, with new offensive line coming in there, I have no doubt that Oklahoma's going to win this game and win it comfortably, okay? But I think it's going to take these guys just a little bit of time to gel, maybe 1-2 games. They go on the road to play UCLA, I believe it is, the next week. And they are facing a coach in Dana Holgorsen who inherits a talented roster at Houston, especially on offense. Defensively, not so much. If you want any evidence of that, look at the bowl game last year against Army. They absolutely got shredded, but a lot of people do not look at the fact in that game that their entire front defensive line was out, including Ed Oliver, the everything player who, I don't know, it seemed like he didn't care if he played or not last season, to be honest with you. But they weren't even lined up properly to stop Army's triple option. I mean, it was just terrible. De'Aaron King, their star quarterback, he is a really talented player, 36 touchdown passes last year. He returns all of his receivers. Dana Holgorsen, no stranger to Oklahoma. He's a legitimate Power 5 coach taking over a non-Power 5 program. That could be huge. I think Houston's going to cover the spread in this game. And I could see Oklahoma winning the game by 21, 24 points, maybe pulling away a little bit late when Houston gets worn down. But it would not shock me at all to see Houston keep this game close for much of the game against Oklahoma. And I think Oklahoma will just get better down the stretch as the year goes on. And finally, we have Syracuse, the Orange, going on the road to take on the Liberty Flames. Syracuse laying 17.5 on the highway in Lynchburg, Virginia. Now, interesting stat I looked up. Liberty's like the 6th largest university in the country as far as enrollment. I didn't know that. I mean, I don't know if that includes online students or like satellite campuses or what, but man, if they got that kind of enrollment, surely they can find 22 people who can play some football, right? They were 6-6 last year. They have not had a losing season since 2005. But last year was their first full season as an FBS member. They were FCS ever since the inception of their program. I know a lot of people don't like Hugh Freeze, don't think he has a lot of morals, this, that, and other. Say what you want to about it. The guy can coach some football and has a really good offensive mind when he is doing so. They return a 3,000-yard passing quarterback in Buckshot Calvert. He threw 21 touchdowns last year, but 18 interceptions. That's very Jake Bentley-like. He's going to have to improve those numbers. And they return a 1,000-yard rusher also. Played against Virginia last year at UVA. Only trailed them by 7 points at halftime. And then conversely, though, we can also look. They went on the road to Auburn and absolutely got demolished, 53-0. I don't know what happened there other than, it's a really Auburn just has a really solid defense. Syracuse, not so much. I think Syracuse is just a team that is overrated. I think that people put a lot of eggs in the basket with them because of their performance against Clemson the past couple of years. Yes, we got to look at that. They upset Clemson in 2017. Guess what they didn't do after that game? They didn't win another game. They did not win another game. Eric Dungy, who's their quarterback, got hurt after that game, went out. He didn't play much the rest of the season. They didn't win another game. They finished up 4-8 after the Clemson game, and they won that one. They were 4-3. Last year, you look at the way that they played. If Dungy was there, they were doing fine. If there was no Dungy there, and just the style of play that he was working with led himself to get injured a good bit. Not saying taking anything away from him. I think he was a tough player. But when he was not there, I mean, they didn't look good. They played Notre Dame. He gets hurt early in the game. What happens? They get absolutely smashed, like 30-3 or 33-3, something like that, by a Notre Dame team that went to the playoffs and got blown out. So I'm just not that sold on Syracuse. They played a really close game. I think they had to go to overtime last year to beat UNC. Just not. And last year opened up on the road at Western Michigan. This is a game much like this one, but I do think that Western Michigan is obviously a much more established non-Power 5 team than Liberty is. But Western Michigan, and they traded back and forth. They couldn't stop them. Their defense did not stop Western Michigan, so they just got in a shootout with them. And Syracuse ended up winning by like 14 points. And I could see the same thing happening here. This will be the biggest home game by far, by 10 times bigger, I'm sure, than any home game that has ever been played in Lynchburg, Virginia by the Liberty Flames. We've seen what's happened when some of these Power 5 schools have gone to play at these small places, these non-Power 5 schools. So it happened at Virginia Tech last year. Same thing. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but it would not surprise me at all to see this be a shootout and be a fourth quarter type game and Syracuse to win by a touchdown to 10 points. I'm going to take the Liberty Flames here in this game to cover that spread. Now, these are just my preliminary picks. I'll go back and redo all these a few days before that week's worth of game goes, because we have all kind of things that pop up during fall camp, most notably injuries. A lot of injuries there happen. My Gamecocks already got one kid out for the year, most likely. He messed up the top of his foot in the game the other day, or in practice the other day, as it were. One of our star defensive linemen, also Javon Kinlaw, tweaked his ankle. And I don't know if we got wearing the wrong cleats or something down there. But those sort of injuries take a toll in fall camp. You have people that actually quit during fall camp, and you have players here and there. I'm sure you'll have a few that'll enter the transfer portal during fall camp as well. So all that stuff, you have to take that into effect. So that's why these are just preliminaries. I just want you to take a look at them and see what you think. And if you see any games that you think that could possibly some money could be made on, make sure you put them down in the comment section below. I welcome your feedback. Make sure you give us a shout out on Facebook, wherever you can share this video, and follow it on Twitter at Carolina Jackpot. I will see y'all later. Appreciate it. Peace, and I'm out. Go Gamecocks.